destination from Win Daily Sports. I'm Dave Gloeckner at DGleck on Twitter. I'm running solo today, so we got off to a little bit of a delay, starting here a half hour later than normal, but we'll still get to everything that we normally get to on this beautiful Saturday morning. Great morning to get into the college football DFS scene, but also just a great day of sports, right? We got the MLB Divisional Series starting today. Awesome college football games you've already seen if you turn on your TV. College football is out in Cal for one of the first times ever with a Miami-Cal matchup. It's just a beautiful weather across the country now that the hurricane's going. I'm just pumped up. So let's get right into it. Warren checking in already. My man, he's always got some great insight as well, so I'll be sharing that. But, yeah, Joel's out today. Happy birthday to his son. But I couldn't leave you guys hanging. Been doing some research, been getting into it. Had some good weeks recently. Let's get another one. So, starting off, I got to get into the games and what we'd like to do. And I'm going to try and see if we get this pumping here is we like to get our slates. So, showing here the first game of the day. Missouri, Texas A&M. Let me just tell you my strategy today. We got 14 games. Big slate, right? We can't play all 14 games. I mean, that's not possible, obviously, with only 9, 10 spots in your line. But I think it's even going to be hard to get in full game stacks today. There's some beautiful games. Pitt, UNC at 63.5 total. WVU, OK State, 64.5 total. Some other really great game environments. I think SMU, Louisville, under a touchdown line at 55.5 total is awesome. But I feel like we're going to have to get in 2s and 3s, not full 4s and 5 game stack, because there's just so many good environments out there. We're going to have to spread it out. And we're going to have to hope for home run hitters today. That's really what we're going to bank on. And there's a couple really good price players. They're going to be heavily owned that can help us get to those big name players. So we'll get started with this Missouri, Texas A&M game. Listen, totals 47.5, spreads 2.5. A nice game environment, but Missouri just hasn't been doing much offensively, which is surprising that they're a dog on the road. And they've been doing it defensively. They're 5th against the pass. They're 17th against the rush. Surprisingly, lining up only about 220 yards a game total. Texas A&M, always a solid defense. This is really tough for me to get involved in this game heavily. If anything, I might take an undervalued Brady Cook today because he's going to be under-owned and pair him with Luther Burden, obviously one of the best receivers in college football. That's about it, though. I'm a full fade everywhere else on A&M. I just don't like anything they're doing. And Weigman, we don't know if he's in or out. Reed's been solid, but it's just not enough with all these other great games involved. So I'm going to be skipping out on A&M and Missouri. But we'll go to the next game here, right? We're going to go, let's click over. BC UVA. A really good one. This is where I got to tempt you with a couple things. Surprisingly, let's start on the Virginia side. Anthony Colandrea, 9,200, one of the top quarterbacks on the board. That's a big price today, but there's good reason for it. Sitting there in UVA, they're not playing very good defense. They're allowing 270 yards in the air, so they have to play a high-paced game. On the other side, BC allowing almost 220, 74th in the nation. So I think Colandrea has a high price tag. I'm not in love with him, but I think there is potential for him today to have a big, big game. And listen, this game sitting at 52, pretty good total for us. Castellanos is back for BC. Already talked about UVA's terrible pass defense, 118th in the nation. Castellanos, one of my favorite QBs on the board. And you're going to have to pair him up, and it's been tough. But Lewis Bond at 4,500 was supposed to be the guy. He hasn't really been the guy yet, but we think he's going to have a better day today, especially against this really, really bad UVA pass defense. So let's look in. He actually is starting to come around a little bit, had 2 games over 20. The other games are under 10. I see that over 20 again at 4,500. I think he's well worth your plays in GPP. So I'd like the Castellanos Lewis Bond combo. Listen, Fields has been really, really good. Malachi Fields for Virginia. BC's not a great pass D, but they're better receivers in the 8K range that I'm not going to play Fields today. If I played anybody, I would look at a cheaper option here. If Harris plays at 5,800, we can look at him. But other than that, I think I'm more on the BC game today. And I think those values there with Castellanos and Bond are really, really good. And Warren checking, love Bonte. Agree, man. 4,500, kind of a steal. Even if you get 10, 12 out of him, you're not going to die. He's going to keep you afloat. And I think he can at least get that, if not pop for 20 again. All right. We're moving on here. Good stuff. Good stuff. Next game. SMU Louisville. Short story. One of my buddies is out doing the Kentucky Whiskey Trail, and he decided I'm going to University of Louisville and SMU. Going to go watch a great game today, and he is going to see a great one that is a sneaky, really game stack environment. My favorite in this, Louisville, surprisingly, playing pretty good defense, allowing only 260 yards total a game, 23rd in the nation in rush defense. But we still got to consider Brashard Smith today. He's been really solid for SMU all year. Let's go check him out real fast so you can see his numbers. But he's one of those workhorses, right? He's getting the carries each game, and he's been better in the receiving game lately too. Consistently getting somewhere around 15 carries a game and receiving right around 3. So we're looking upwards of 20 touches in a high-pace environment. 78's a lot, but it's someone I believe we can truly rely on. Look at the fantasy points over the past 2 weeks, 46 and 30. So they're really – and they've scored, what, right there, 54 a game in the past 2 weeks versus TCU and FSU. Might not get that high today at Louisville, but Smith is definitely in play for me from the SMU side. We'll go back into this game real fast. Tyler Shaw. I think we got to really consider him today. A good environment. SMU – not so good against the pass, allowing almost 230 yards per game, which is good for 82nd in the nation. 130 teams. That's the bottom half. And then we got, every week, Ja'Cory Brooks is in play. So let's dial these two up real fast. Get Harris off my game there. Ja'Cory Brooks has just been shooting up. We've seen him as low as 4,800, as we see here, to 5,700, and just consistently producing each and every single week. So his target share is huge. And today against an SMU bad pass defense, high-pace environment, Ja'Cory Brooks will be one of my favorite wide receivers. 6,100 still a good price, or 6,300. So Ja'Cory Brooks, Tyler Shaw, I think is a good combo in this game. And if you want to get in the three-man game environment, like I said, pair him up with Smith. All right. Yeah, I don't know about that one. I'm going to leave that one alone. All right, moving on. We got to get into, and like I said, SMU, great game environment. I'm going to be playing some of that, but here's one of our favorites of the day. Pitt, UNC, let's just say 63.5, second highest total on the board. SP Plus from ESPN has this one hitting a little under the total, but I still believe it has potential to go way over. I watched a little bit of the UNC Duke game last week. A lot of yards to be had out there. Let's just go over the highlights of this. Both teams in the bottom 40 in college football in pass yards allowed per game. Pitt, 232 a game. That's 93rd. UNC, 233 a game. That's 94th. These teams just don't play much pass defense. We all know about Pitt, too. High-paced environment, right? They really try and play fast. On the other side, running, of course, they're a little better because teams pass all over them, but UNC allowing 123 on the ground. So total, they're in the 350 per game as a team. Pitt, 110 on the ground. What's important there? Let's look at the left side. Holstein, completely in play. Here's the biggest news of the day, and if you've been studying, you know it. Rodney Hammond Jr. We thought at the beginning of the year he was out due to a suspension. All of a sudden, that suspension has been lifted. Hammond's back. Pitt's playing well. What does that do to Des Reed? I don't know, but I know they can't ignore Rodney Hammond. We're getting a free square at 3K. You're going to see a lot of plays here. Even if he just gets 8 to 10 touches, we're going to see production upwards of the 8 to 10 point range. Pop in a touchdown there. We could see 5, 6x production on this number. So Rodney Hammond Jr. fully in play. You got to at least keep him on your bingo card. And then as we get into the wide receivers, let's just click a couple. Obviously, Mumpfeld. It's been tricky getting the kind of pit receivers right. Williams has been good. Kenny Johnson has been good. But let's just let's see what we got here and just double check everybody. But Mumpfield leads the way, had that big game at the end of the Cincinnati game, as we remember. Here it was, 32.3. Been steady since Youngstown State. They didn't really need him, but definitely the most consistent, lowest floor receiver on Pitt. And then looking at Williams, he's kind of teetered off of late. We're going to go into this. He came back versus Youngstown State, but had those two kind of duds with WVU and Cincy. So I lean more towards Johnson here. He had, since he didn't play much, I watched that game, but the WVU game, solid, every game double digits besides Cincy. So at 3,900, I think I'd prefer Johnson over Williams, and then we can just mix in Mumpfield as well. But really, got to keep an eye on Hammond today. Like we said, he's available, and it was a bit of a shock that he's going to play. So got to keep him on your radar. All right, let's look at UNC real fast because they have some people. They have my favorite. Well, I won't call it favorite. That's not fair. Second favorite running back on the slate today, Omarion Hampton. Criswell's a good play too. He's been really, really solid. So is James. So we're gonna look. We're gonna look at Hampton real fast. Hampton's just that guy that just gets the carries. Look at this: 30, 25, 29. JMU only 19, but still 130. Over 100 every single game except Charlotte, but he only had 11 carries that game. Kind of got outpaced, but here's where we want to look too. A couple games of 4 receptions. I'm sorry. Really, one of my favorite running backs on the board today. We talked about Pitt's running defense, still letting up 110 a game. Yes, you can shred them through the air. I think their run D isn't as good either. So I love Omarion Hampton today. I think he's going to be breakout and be able to keep pace with a fast Pitt team. And then lastly, Criswell. We talked about it. He's been as consistent as can be at the college level, scoring 33 and 19 the past 2 weeks. You know, in a game environment, I think he's got to keep it up and try and keep pace. He's had 8 carries, 7 carries the past 2 weeks. Not in love, but I can understand. I'd rather play the UNC running game against the Pitt passing game today. All right, let's see if we got anything else. Yeah, very true. Very true. We're getting there, but Lacey will be chalky as you spoke. Great point. But we're just trying to keep on moving here, plugging along. I got to tell you about this game, Wake NC State, and you're probably already dialed in, but Wake and NC State have horrific pass defenses. Wake ranks 122nd in the nation out of 133 teams at 285.8 a game. With McCall out, you have to seriously consider CJ Bailey today. And one of my favorite top receivers on the slate is going to be Concepcion. High volume, high targets, and a backup quarterback's dream is to have someone they can rely on even when it gets tight. So we're going to really consider those two. Bachmeier's also in play today. I got to say that, NC State's no iron defense, iron curtain as well, ranking 92nd in pass defense. So consider Bachmeier, both great prices, 5,100, 6,000. You can play these guys one off. You only have to pair a receiver with them and be confident that you're going to do just fine, be able to rack up some points. So let's just double check these guys. Bailey, very likely to start today. It's saying it down here, will get the start in week 6. We've seen him a little bit this year. He's had some rushing yards too. Some of this is negative due to the sacks, but really like his chances and potential at 5,100. And like I said, Concepcion, absolute dimes out there. Has been big all year, had some high volume games at 8 and 9 receptions. So going to dial him in many of my lineups. A little underperforming with the points lately. They got on the wrong side of the scoreboard at Clemson and Tennessee. But look at that 41-point game. And versus a horrible, horrible pass defense. Lock him up. One of my top 3 receivers today. All right. We've gotten to the meat and potatoes of this. Purdue, Wisconsin. This is number 1 running back on the board. Number 1. Wisconsin had some news just hit One of their main running backs stepped away from the team and has kind of yielded the backfield to our boy here, Tyree Walker, transfer from Oklahoma. So looking like we're in great shape because I'm going to give you a number here that you're going to have to love, and that is how bad Purdue is against the run. Ches Malusi is the running back I'm talking about that stepped away. Tyree Walker at 5,100 will be heavily owned. But Purdue, and we saw teams just shred them, 130th against the run. I already mentioned there's 133 teams in college football. In D1, this is just bottom of the bottom, allowing 242 yards per game. And with Wisconsin still having some questions at quarterback, Locke played okay last week. They'd be a fool not to give Tyree Walker the ball. They've also fired their offensive coordinator. Well, I know Purdue did as well just recently. So Tyree Walker, number one, focus on him. Heavily owned. You're going to get a lot of production out of him. And then looking at Purdue's side of things, mentioning the firing of their offensive coordinator, Maccabee could be back in play today. It's been a little bit of a kind of questionable sense why he hasn't gotten a ton of work. He had that big Oregon State game, but then, not a ton of work in some other games. We could go back to a heavy Purdue running game. They're so bad defensively that they need to slow this game down. Maccabee at 4K looks really, really enticing, especially when we look at Wisconsin allowing 146 yards a game on the ground. So two really cheap running backs for you today. 4K, 5,100. That's all I need in this game. And I'm happy. Usually, we do talk a little bit more about Wisconsin from a wide receiver standpoint because Pauling has always been very solid. And you could still go there at 4,500. But I think attack the running game today. And look, Pauling had the great Bama game, but was shut down last week. Kind of hurt us. So let's stick with running. All right. Moving on here. We got flipped to almost the afternoon slate. We only got one more. Penn State, UCLA. UCLA, absolutely atrocious against the pass. 291 yards a game, 126th in the nation. Drew Aller, heavily in play. There was news earlier that Nick Singleton was on the injury report. He's back to probable, going to play. He's in play because he gets a lot of the reception and the targets out of the backfield from Aller. Allen's always in play too. Can't play both, right? You're going to have to hope one does great. So I understand if you split that up. Harrison Wallace, he's going to be a great option today at receiver. It's been funny. He had that early awesome game with West Virginia, right? There it goes, 5 for 117, then shut out. And then two kind of duds. But I think Wallace is in for a huge game today against UCLA. Also consider this, UCLA, West Coast, California, coming east, playing at 12 p.m., Penn State, really 9 a.m. for them. It's just going to be tough for them to show up today. And Penn State, believe it or not, had some struggles at home recently. Illinois gave them a battle. Bowling Green gave them a battle. I think they roll on UCLA today, and Harrison Wallace is a big part of it. I don't like anybody on UCLA, so I'm going to fade that. Penn State, they're really good. 14th against the pass, 7th against the rush. No thanks on UCLA. All right, now we get into the afternoon slate, the other 7 games, as we'll call them. UGA and Auburn. It's been surprising this year. UGA hasn't been great against the pass. 162 yards a game, but they've been worse against the run. 126, 59. It's not the typical Bulldogs defense that we've seen. We saw Alabama roll over them, roll tide for the whole first half until they had to come back and, win the game late. But this team can be had. And it's crazy. Peyton Thorne stinks as a football player, but he's averaging a decent amount of fantasy because he puts the ball up so much. So I think there's some potential value in Peyton Thorne. He's going to throw some picks today, but hey, if you're looking for numbers, he's going to put the ball in the air. And then on the Georgia side, Auburn, not great, 208 yards per game. So you can attack them in the air. I don't love the Georgia running attack. ETN's always solid, but I'm probably like kind of a pass on this game. Love it's been good, but there's better games out there. Just mentioning that could have points. Implied total 51.5, but there's just too many better environments out there. We'll click real fast on Love It. just to show you some of the stuff he's been doing of late. Obviously, Carson Beck is a top talent in this league, but getting the 6 receptions in each of the past 2 games and 3 before that, he could be my one-off for Georgia today. All right, let's clear it all out here. And then hopefully everybody's following along and dialing in some of these good names that we got. South Carolina, Ole Miss. I've seen a lot of people love Jackson Dart today. I mean, they need to rebound after that terrible loss to Kentucky. He wasn't good. Let's plug him in. But I'm not sold. South Carolina's actually played well on defense. And I think at 9,900, we have some better options out there. I mean, I'd rather probably pay up for Milroe against a soft Vanderbilt team that has a similar salary than Dart. But the one area, if you're going to, I think you can survive taking, well, I'll leave Dart in there now so you can look at it. But is the best receiver on the slate, 8,900, Trey Harris. We're going to get into his numbers, but averaging almost 10 receptions a game. I really could play him solo away from Dart and feel just fine. And that's potentially going to be one of my solutions here. From a South Carolina standpoint, Ole Miss hasn't been great against the pass. South Carolina's just been, okay offensively. So I'm not loving anything particularly on this team. The one, Jared Brown's been good. And he looks like he's back and probable. We'll click on him real fast. I could see a potential here where if you get in a high-paced game, Brown could be a nice run back to Harris. But like I said, Harris, number 1 receiver on the board. He's just 8, 9, 11, 11, 11. You can't put this up in video games. 25, 26, 40, 36. It's just he's too good. He's too good. Even in a game when they only score 17 points, he finds a way to put up 36. So Trey Harris, definitely one of the top receivers, if not the top on the slate today. And then Dart, again, with his rushing, he's in play. Like him, don't love him. Those numbers were great until Kentucky. South Carolina boasts a similar defense to Kentucky. All right. Let's flip the script to Virginia Tech and Stanford. One of those games you got to love today. A total of about 50. Kyron Jones, Stanford, very, very, very bad against the pass. 124th, almost 290 per game. Byshul Tootin, Bash, as they like to call him. He's in play. Jalen Lane, yes. And if you want to go cheap like Daquan Felton, I'm good. On the other side, Alec Ayominar has been great for Stanford. Virginia Tech, not great in the passing game either, but they're not really good in the running game too. So we're going to want to look at a bunch of things here. So let's just double check Ayomar. He's been solid as can be. 21 receptions over 4 games, averaging just about 16 fantasy points. He's a big body. So love him today against a Vatech team that does let up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And then, like I said, it's interesting. We're not getting anything in the Stanford running game. They just don't do it much. But you're going to have to look at guys like Irvin for a kind of low-price play because Vatech, 101st against the run, 178. Kyron Jones, top 4, top 5 quarterback on my slate today. The numbers have been good, not great. Obviously, the 6 TDs, 4 interceptions. We expected more. Kyron, he was working out with the big boys, Shedeur Sanders and, the guys over the summer. And he wants to be, really good in the passing game, but he's more lethal with his legs. I hope he tries to take advantage of that today against Stanford. So I'm looking at Kyron Jones as a top 5 as Stanford lets up a ton through the air and ground, a top 5 quarterback. All right. Last couple games here. Listen, I'm a little surprised. I was allowing a decent amount in the air. They're 68th in the nation. Will Howard, only 7,500, and we've been able to get these guys in. Will Howard has been one of the better quarterbacks in some of the slates recently. He's consistent as can be, averaging 23 at 7,500. I think he's well in play today. A great choice for you. And then pair him up. Pick your favorite, right? Ibuka, he was in the winning lineup a couple weeks ago. popped again last week for 22. So I think Igbokwe is a great pairing with Will Howard, but our favorite freshman outside of the guy from Alabama, Jeremiah Smith, is going to be something. And he already is, averaging 24 games. So I could see a world where you get both involved. Ohio State has an implied team total in the upper 30s, but I prefer one or the other because it just gets too expensive selling all three. So pick your choice, pick your poison, but Igbokwe, Smith, both in play. And I love the pairing with Howard today at 7,500. All right. Let's get into the biggest game on the entire slate, and that's two atrocious defenses. We have Oklahoma State allowing almost 500 yards per game total, 276 in the air, 204 on the ground, both in 117 or lower in college football. West Virginia, 256 in the air, 154 on the ground, good for over 400 a game. Click them all. Make your screen green in this game. This is one that you could fully give me a 4 or 5 person game stack. But here's what I love. Ollie Gordon. It's finally going to be an Ollie Gordon day for me. I saw him running really, really hard last week. And then it just got out of hand. And they let, K-State just steamroll him late. Again, no big games since San Diego State early in the season. Has not even come close to his value. He's at his lowest point now this year at 9K. But here's why you got to love him. Already spoke, West Virginia, not great against the run, 154 game. Last year, Ollie Gordon had one of those games against WVU, 29 carries, 282 yards, and 4 touchdowns. I think if they're smart, they saw the resurgence Ollie at the beginning of the last game versus K-State until he went out for a little bit and then had to come back in and the game was out of hand. They need to keep this game within arm's reach. They need to play a smarter game with how bad that defense is. I think it's a full-on Ollie Gordon day, 20-plus carries, 4 or 5-plus receptions. Favorite day for Ollie Gordon all year. Favorite running back on the slate. Outside of those really cheap bargains that you're going to have to play as well. All right. And then for West Virginia, Garrett Green. You got to attack. You got to take over. The 2 running backs are in play too with White and Donaldson. Oklahoma State, you watched DJ Giddens go wild last week for Kansas State. And then Stribling's been their best receiver. Just stop with the Presley stuff. If they're going to just focus on anybody, it's Stribling. Again, another impressive game last week, 31 points. Even in a blowout, he was the highly focused. These guys didn't even play the fourth quarter. I watched that game. So big game for Stribling possibly today. I could play him with Ollie. I also think Bowman's in play too. You could play Bowman without Ollie today. It would actually be safe. And then here's Green's numbers too. 17 rushing attempts, 11, 7, 10. We're getting about 12, 13 rushing attempts per game for all positive yards. So Green going to have a huge game today as well. Top quarterback on my board. All right, we're into the 4 o'clocks, right? RU Nebraska. Surprisingly, both teams, Nebraska playing pretty good defense. Rutgers, coming off that great Friday night win against Washington, playing decent defense themselves. Don't love anything in this game. Montague is always in play. 8,100 is a little steep now. Rather pay up for an Ollie Gordon or some other good areas. And then last but not least, Bama Vandy, Milrow. And then we're going to get into a little bit of our Ryan Williams here at 7,300. I think he's a discount. Pavia could be a good play too. Runs the ball a ton, 6,800. Good quarterback pricing for an environment where you could get some points on the board. All right, let's focus on Milrow real fast. But it's just, I said it early, 53-point game is amazing, right? But it's on Heisman display. And in this new offense, 10 TDs and 1 interception has been probably the most impressive point, 40 points. Like I said, I'd rather have him over Dart today with only $500 more in the tank. All right. I think I hit on most of my games and the stuff I'm looking at. We make a lot of notes here. Bachmeier, Howard, you got a lot to play today. I think quarterback's going to be tricky. I think we're going to have to really focus on those passing games. I'll say them again. Teams in the bottom 90 or worse in pass defense. You got 9 of them in play today. OK State, WVU, Stanford, UCLA, that's 4. NC State, Wake, Virginia, Pitt, UNC. There's your other 5. You got 9 down there. Look at the Holsteins. Look at the Castellanos, the Drones, the Greens, the Bowmans. Will Howard, obviously, like him too, even though we didn't talk about Iowa being in that group. Bachmeyer. C.J. Bailey's an interesting one too, and Drew Aller. So have some fun today. Win some money. I know we had a lot going on. Yeah. Bernard's one of those guys, especially running back. We've been looking at here. Let's pull him up real fast here. And then I wanted to pull Haynes up as well. Well, Jay Miller's like our favorite but Bernard has been sneaky good. You're correct. He came up big in the reception game last week. Look how steady he's been. Good point, Warren. Like that a lot. And Vandy's a terrible, terrible defense. We have numbers on them that we can attack. The recap and running back, really, Tyree Walker at 5,100, Rodney Hampton, Hammond from Pitt at 3K. Got to consider Ollie Gordon, top notch, 9K. And then looking at Omari Hampton, 8,700. You'll have your other options in here that you can choose from. Let's get out of the games we selected and just get to the full slate here. And then there we go. Reed, I can't play him now with Hammond back. Montague, I think it's a little expensive for a good Nebraska defense. Singleton, we talked about, back in play against UCLA. But more importantly, I like the pass game. Tootin's solid, going to be a real nice option for everyone. And there's the Jam Miller against that 99th ranked Vandy defense. A lot of good options there at running back, and then the cheaper ones that we mentioned. And I'm willing to spend up today. I'm willing to get to Trey Harris. I think that's a great spot for him. I'm willing to get up to Burden. And then the Ohio State receivers, obviously Jeremiah Smith and Egbuka, I think are well in play today. And then we got some really good options, obviously, with Aymar, Concepcion. They're one of the tops on the list. And we saw some 4,500s, don't forget, that look real enticing with Bond. Pauling's always a high volume receiver potentially at 4,500. There's Bond at 4,500. So got a lot of nice choices out there. As always, check in every Saturday. Joe will be back next week. I'll have a little bit interaction in the Win Daily Discord here going forward over the next hour and a half. Good luck. I hope your screens turn green. And as always, we partner with Underdog. Check out the screen on the bottom here. We got, a deal going on with them. Win Daily 100's the code. Get in there, especially if you're in states that, Underdog allows you to play some of that, daily fantasy props. It's a great place to just nail like some of these today. I mean, just Ollie Gordon's Garrett Green over his rushing prop look really good. So I wish you the best of luck today. I can't wait to talk more about it as we get into Discord, and I'll follow back up here on YouTube in the comments. But everyone, have a great day. Watch some great college football. And last but not least, go Phillies.